guys, I just wanted to do a quick review video before today's quiz. Hopefully if you did your Zearn and you did all the review pages this week, you feel okay about it, but I know a few people mentioned in the comments that they were still a little confused about some of it. So I wanted to go over the parts that they're going to, that you're going to need to know for the quiz. So the first section of the quiz is on decomposing fractions. And that we actually did before we left on this crazy break. So hopefully you kind of remember that from when we were still in school. But basically, they're going to show you a tape diagram and ask you to write the number sentence that goes with it. So first they're going to show you the tape diagram, and you're going to have to decide what fraction is shaded all together. So hopefully you can see that there's a 1 covering all the pieces. So that means this whole thing is 1, and if the whole thing is 1 and it's being broken into 4 parts, then that means there's a 4 on the bottom, and there's 3 shaded, so that means 3 on the top, so that's 3/4. Right? Now they're going to put brackets underneath to show you how to break it down. So if they do those brackets, which each bracket is just under one shape, then that's called unit fractions, remember? So we break that down into each one of these pieces is 1/4. So that would be the answer to that one. That would be how they want you to decompose, or how they want you to write a number sentence to show how the decomposing happened, right? Now, then they might show you a different way to decompose. So again, it's all 1, and it's broken into exactly 7 equal pieces, so that means we're in sevenths. So we know there's going to be a 7 on the bottom, and then if they colored in 6, then that means there's a 6 on the top. And then we just look at the brackets underneath to see how they broke it down. So hopefully you can see that the first bracket has 2 boxes, or 2 sevenths. The second bracket has 3 boxes, or 3 sevenths. And the third bracket just has 1 7th. So that would be how they would want you to write that answer. Okay. Now, the other part of decomposing is sometimes they're going to tell you the number sentence and you're going to have to draw what they said. So for example, let's switch colors here. If they do that's the number sentence they write, 4/10 equals 1/10 plus 2/10 plus 1/10, you need to draw it. So the first thing you need to draw is a tape diagram that is broken into tenths. So the whole thing is 1. Don't forget that part, because that's important when it comes to those fractions that go beyond 1 whole, right? And then we have to break it into 10 pieces. Okay, so now we have tenths, but they want us to show 4/10. So we're just going to color in 4 of them. Okay, And then they want us to make our brackets to show the adding. They want a 1 and a 2 and a 1. 1/10, then 2/10, then 1/10. So here's 1/10, here's 2/10, and here's 1/10. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, let me real quick show you one that does go beyond 1. Let's see. What if they said 8/5 equals 3/5 plus 4/5 plus 1/5? Now, you need to make 8/5. The tricky thing is, we're talking about fifths, so that means our one whole is only broken into 5 pieces. Okay, so now we have fifths, but if we color in all 5 of them, that only gives us 5/5, and we need 8/5. So this is one of those ones that goes beyond the one whole. So we need 3 more fifths, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 6, 7, and 8. So we need to draw 3 more. Okay, so 6, 7, 8. So now we have, they're still fifths because 5 of them equal 1, but there's 8 of them. So it's 8/5. Okay. So now we have to break it the way they asked us to. So we start with 3/5. 1, 2, 3. Then we have 4/5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have 1/5. Okay? So that's what they would ask you to do on the quiz. All right, there's one more section of the quiz, and then you're ready. This section is about equivalent fractions. Let's change to orange. Okay, equivalent fractions. So that means they're equal to each other. So there's 2 fractions, but they're both equal to each other. So the quiz is going to show you, let's see. Let's say they show you and then they break it again. The quiz does it in a strange way, but okay, so what they're showing you here is that you started with, if you just look at the orange parts, there were 4 of them, right? So those were fourths. So you have 1/4 colored in. But then if you broke them all again, now you have, instead of 4 equal pieces, you have 8 equal pieces. And so now this is 2/8 that's broken, right? So the tricky thing about breaking things up, especially in a tape diagram, is you have to break all the pieces, because if you only break this one and left the other ones, the big orange ones, then they would be bigger than these little ones that were cut by the blue. And when you do fractions, all the pieces have to be the exact same size. So if you're going to break one piece in half, you have to break all the pieces in half. If you're going to break one piece into thirds, you have to break all the pieces into thirds. Does that make sense? Okay, so sometimes they'll show you the tape diagram and they want to know what equivalence did they just draw. So they just drew that 1/4 equals 2/8. Okay, and I think they actually ask you to write it out in a sentence, like to explain how this works. So you would write something like, the top bracket shows that it was broken into fourths, and I have 1/4 shaded, and then each fourth was broken in half. So now we have eighths, and there are 2/8 shaded, and that proves that 1/4 equals 2/8. Okay. Okay, and And then the last thing they're going to do is they're going to tell you the two fractions that are equal to each other, and you're going to draw something that proves it. And there's two things you can draw. You can either draw a tape diagram or you can draw an area model. So let me show you one with a tape diagram and then we'll do one with an area model. So let's say they tell you to show that 3/5 is equal to 9/15. Okay, so if they wanted to show you that, you would start by making 3/5 as a tape diagram. Okay, so that would be, actually, let me do it the way they do it. Don't put the 1 up. Just put that this is 3/5. Okay, so the whole thing is fifths, but we only shaded in 3 of them. I know it's a little confusing because we used to always put the 1 on top and now we're putting a fraction on the top, but that's because to show equivalence on a tape diagram you have to put 1 on top and 1 on the bottom, and that's just the way it is. So this is 3/5. Now, to change it into 9/15 you might be a little confused at first, but the trick is to say, how do I change 3 things into 9 things? And if you think about multiplication, you would say, well, if I broke them all in half, that would be multiplying by 2. So the 3 would turn into a 6. That's not going to work. But if I multiply by 3, if I change each of these into 3s, then I would get 9. So if I take each of these and I break them into 3 parts. Now remember, when we break into 3 parts, we draw 2 lines, right? Break into 5 parts, we draw 4 lines. You always draw 1 less line than you need because every line breaks it in twice. So if we want to make 3 into 9, we have to break each of these into 3 parts. So we're going to break each one twice. So now 1, 2, 3, right? And then break this one twice, 4, 5, 6. And then break this one twice, 7, 8, 9. So now we have 9, but we have to keep going. We have to break all of them, right? So now we have 15 sections because we broke all 5 of these into 3 each, and 3 times 5 is 15. And we have each of these that's shaded, there's 9. So there's 9 shaded, and there's 15 altogether. Okay, so that's a tape diagram way of showing an equivalence. Now let me show you the area model way. Okay, an area model is the one that's kind of longer and you break it vertically, or excuse me, you break it horizontally. The lines are very vertical and you break it horizontally. So let's say you have 5/6 equals 10/12. Okay, to make an area model, you would draw 5/6. Okay, so see how we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have sixths. Now I want to shade 5 of them in. Okay, so that's 5/6. Now to make them into 10/12, it's just like we talked about in the last one. How would you change the 5 into